Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over what is happening to the stock, what we can expect moving forward, and all of that good stuff. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And as per usual, if you do enjoy these videos, technical analysis, my thoughts on the charts, etc., I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is open. In my YouTube membership, the link is down below. It is the first link in the description of the video. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my thoughts, post updates, technical analysis, mainly on Tesla stock, sometimes other stocks as well when I see an opportunity. For just $3 a month or for $5 a month, you get access to everything I just said, plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. We'd love to have you there. Definitely check it out. But nonetheless, jumping into it, NVIDIA closing the day up a nice 3% on the day. Closing just shy of $138 per share, which compared to the market is also, you can argue, roughly in line more or less with the market. Now, what does this mean moving forward for NVIDIA? Well, NVIDIA is pretty much reverting back to the mean, right? We were obviously, on the daily, on the 4-hour, we were at or very close to oversold territories. And then we essentially reverted back to the mean, and everything is pretty much back into the center. The RSI is in the center. The stock itself is in the middle of the Bollinger Bands now. So there's no super obvious play. But what NVIDIA is doing here that's a little bit nice is the fact that it is printing an inside day candle. You can see as today's candle was completely contained within yesterday's trading range, right? That is obviously an inside day candle. So what you want to be looking for is a break below today's low, which is about 135.5, would signal some potential caution, right? But on the flip side, and I think this is the more likely outcome personally, breaking above today's high and especially above yesterday's high, so essentially above like high 138s, really 138.5 to 139-ish, would be bullish. That would be bullish, and I think we'd make a move back up to about $144 per share. Now, why am I saying $144 per share? Well, you can make an argument, and this is kind of a more bearish perspective, though, is the fact that this massive sell-off, what we're experiencing now, will ultimately be essentially like a mini bear fly / dead cat bounce, which we are actually getting rejected at the very first Fibonacci level of 382, which is sitting at about, again, 138.5, which is where we rejected at today and yesterday. So breaking above this level will bring us up to the 618 Fibonacci level, which is sitting at about 144, followed by, if we break above that, closer to $150, which is that next Fibonacci level. Those are the main targets to the upside, right? So watch for that. Watch for the inside day break and watch for essentially 138.5 roughly to break, right? That should be very bullish moving forward. That's kind of my main analysis, and honestly, that's the main perspective ultimately on NVIDIA moving forward. Now, overall, the structure on NVIDIA, right? It's, again, the daily chart, because the daily is kind of right dead smack in the center, it's not printing anything obvious. Now we have, the inside day candle to play with, and that's the main indicator, I would say, moving forward, ultimately on the actual chart. But, structure-wise, as long as we continue within this massive rising channel that we are obviously in, that has supported us several times and has also recently supported us again just now, like a week ago or so, as long as we continue, within this rising channel, I only expect us to continue rising, and technically speaking, a move back up to the opposite side of the rising channel, which would put NVIDIA sometime, potentially even in February, well into the 160s, right? So that, technically speaking, is the target, unless we, of course, lose this rising channel, which could happen, right? That absolutely could happen. So, it's not perfect, right? There's always that risk. Whether or not this is that, is another question entirely. So let's see how this actually ultimately plays out. But that's probably the main perspective that I'm eyeballing in NVIDIA right now. Again, when something is right in the middle of the Bollinger Band, usually you look for any chart patterns, and there's no real obvious pattern other than this maybe being a bear flag, but we also have that inside day candle. So those are the main two things, strictly looking only at the chart, I'm paying attention to right now, short-ish term, if you will. I do want to see the stochastic really finally get a nice curling action going on, which it's starting to, but I want to see a bit more. And ultimately, if this finally crosses bullish, that would be obviously a very good sign as well. And I think we'll make our way well above from here. But ultimately, that's kind of my main perspective. I mean, there's really not much to add here because NVIDIA hasn't, even though it's been going up and down like 3%, 4%, it's still largely within the same area ultimately, right? It's just kind of ping-ponging within the same general vicinity. Now, looking at the weekly, though, let's take a look at the weekly. So obviously the stochastic is still not buying any of this, right? Stochastic is still pointing straight down, and it's just, it's not fully happy with this, right? The last time the stochastic did this and it was pointing straight down, NVIDIA did face a decent sell-off, and it has actually faced a decent sell-off here. And you can see the stochastic, even though NVIDIA had this massive rally back up, technically the stochastic was still pointing straight down. Then it came back down one more time, and then it finally started to get ready to curl, and we went back up. So again, the stochastic isn't perfect. It's not going to be, the one indicator to rule them all, essentially. But, it's at the moment not fully buying this recovery, I guess, for the week. But with that being said, looking strictly at the levels, I like the fact that, like I mentioned, we closed above 134. That's a good sign because that could have been very concerning. So we're still essentially maintaining price within this overall massive trading range that NVIDIA has maintained for quite some time. So that's not a bad sign. I do like to see that. It could have been very risky if we closed below 134 today. That would have been definitely, not the most ideal look, but we didn't, which is good. So things are still looking pretty fine for the bulls, in my opinion. On top of that, we again reverted back to the mean of the Bollinger Band, so which is good. I like when the stock ultimately, I like NVIDIA in this case at least, is sitting in the middle of the Bollinger Band because it's not on the weekly time frame overbought, right? It's the stock, this massive move we had, and this kind of very long sideways correction that's been occurring arguably since like really early November. This long correction that we've had, which is, again, not every correction has to be straight down. Sometimes you get these more or less sideways chop corrections, which NVIDIA has been experiencing for a very long time. Sometimes you get these kind of corrections instead, which is fine, right? But I like the fact that it's right in the middle of the Bollinger Band. It's not overbought, but it's not oversold. It's right in the middle, which, technically speaking, gives it more room back to the upside, which, becomes a very realistic possibility still for NVIDIA. We could absolutely still, have that happen essentially, which is good. But as it stands right now, I guess what I'm trying to say is the fact that, the daily, wait for the inside day breakout, right? Wait to see how this breaks out. Let's see how this, forms, what this ends up actually doing. Can we actually break past that 382 Fibonacci level at about 138.5? If we can, ultimately we should go higher. And I think 144 at least is next. But, we'll see. We'll have to see how the candles obviously form from there. But again, for the most part, NVIDIA has been essentially more or less bouncing from the one end to the other end of the Bollinger Band, from here all the way up, then all the way back down, then up, then back down, then pretty much back up, pretty much back down, back up, back down. Do we just go back up again ultimately? Yeah, probably. Honestly, at this point, most likely. I mean, it's been pretty much doing that for like months at this point. Why would it stop? Now nothing's suggesting that it's going to stop yet. So you just assume it's going to do the opposite, or go back to the opposite end, right? It's pretty much what it's been doing for quite a while. So yeah, I mean, again, nothing. I wish I could give a bit more, but the market feels a little bit undecided here, in my opinion, right? It feels a little bit uncertain in a way, in certain perspectives. I like how the indices have broken now, which is a nice sign, right? We get a nice little breakout hashing on SPY and QQQ. So I think the market's more bullish than bearish, which obviously is very good for NVIDIA. Especially with these breakouts, which I still think there's room higher, absolutely, but we need to see a little bit of follow through. So maybe as long as the inauguration goes well, we'll get that follow through. Hard to say for sure, but I still think the bulls have the overall upper hand on NVIDIA, mainly because the larger term rising channel is still maintained. And again, when you're in a rising channel, you assume you will continue rising until essentially proven otherwise. Taking a quick look at options flow here, let's see if there's anything interesting and it's evidence, if you will, in terms of options flow. Pretty mixed, actually. No, I wouldn't say it's actually mixed. Now, the bulls are definitely having the upper hand with some nice golden above the ask calls coming in here for more leaps, actually. We saw a lot of these leaps. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. More of them came in today. I think yesterday we saw like almost 15 million, if I'm not mistaken. I think the exact same ones as well. And we're seeing them again pretty much here. A little bit less this time, but nonetheless, still almost 10 million on the leaps here, right? Sitting at, again, 140 calls above the ask, pretty much a year out. So that's pretty good. I mean, clearly some whale is stocking up on some very, very strong leaps on NVIDIA. Clearly some whale is very bullish moving forward on NVIDIA, but because it's a year out, clearly they don't think it's going to happen overnight. And because it's only just slightly out of the money, they probably don't expect this move to be something crazy that's going to happen tomorrow or something like that. But they probably expect a nice steady trend overall up for NVIDIA. And, honestly, I'd have to agree, right? I would have to agree. I don't think we're just going to rocket back up. We could. I don't think we will, though. But I do think that we will slow and steady zigzag our way back up higher. And honestly, I still think making fresh new all-time highs sometime in maybe February. But that's my perspective. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on Tuesday. Peace.